Good afternoon to everybody. Namaste. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm beginning at 3:09, which means I'm 9 minutes beyond my schedule. So I will time myself to complete my talk by 3:49 or 3:50, if not earlier. Okay. With those points, it's very opportune that I come back to AVP. Have been coming here over the years, and Krishna Kumar ji, who has not only led your institution but also much of the Ayurveda industry. It's a great honor to be doing anything that is associated with him and with a fine group of people represented at AVP. So, with those opening remarks, I'm trying to bring in a perspective which is probably going to complement what you heard in the morning and what you're likely to hear in subsequent sessions. So it's a very interesting agenda that has been drawn up when I look at the variety of speakers and the perspectives that they bring to the table. And the fact is, when we look at COVID-19 in the context of an epidemic, I don't use the word pandemic, pandemic, it's an epidemic. And as far as India is concerned, so in this context, my talk, apropos, in the context of COVID-19 is how have we, or how have I, we is like you and me who is listening to this presentation, how have we responded thus far, right? Is it the right way? How do we respond going forward? What would be the options before us to respond? So with these remarks, I know we'll be going into detail on the medical side, but when you look at a particular disease and a pandemic, it's important to go beyond general points into something which is specific. So as you know that the COVID-19 disease, as the days have gone by from mid-December to January, February, March, we realized that we first thought it was only the lungs, but then it's ended up attacking so many of our organs, so many of our systems. So very clearly, a vascular implication is very much there. Respiratory, metabolic, GI, nervous system. These systems are very clearly being attacked by the virus, right? And particularly people who are over 60 years of age and who have got a comorbidity of diabetes or a vascular disorder, cardiac disorder, or obesity seem to be most at risk very clearly, right? So this is the data. So when we look at a disease like this, what I want everybody to think about is we use the word COVID-19 and then we say prophylaxis, we say some treatment, and we say post-treatment, or we then say people directly in contact with healthcare workers, directly in contact with patients, and so on and so forth. We are forgetting the fact that it is not just individual, it is not disease. It is the interaction between a disease and a person at a particular place at a particular time. I'm just simplifying it by using the word the Rogi Roga Avastha across a period of time. So if you were to chart this diagram is illustrative, right? The data, we'll look at some of the statistics which pertain to COVID-19. But of the people who have got infected to date and who are likely to get infected, the data broadly indicates that 80%, we know this, but how do we interpret it? 80% will develop mild or either asymptomatic or they will develop mild constitutional symptoms, right? 80%. Balance 20% will develop severe complications, including entering into a pulmonary phase, and about 17% of them of the 20 will recover from that phase. So this is where the cytokine reactions are happening and the body and the disease are combating, right? And then it goes into the next phase, which is a hyperinflammation phase, which is typically when the person is put on ventilators and the bunch of medicines, and most often than not, these people die, right? So if you go into hyperinflammation, there's nothing to do. So it's pretty clear that the disease is progressing, and we're all talking in terms of interventions without realizing who's the Rogi, what is the Roga, what is the Rogi Roga Avastha, and which stage has the disease progressed to, right? So it sounds quite lame and foolish. We talk about personalized healthcare. Ayurveda is able to do such in-depth personalization. Where is it, right? So we need to think about it. So look at the data. The flattening of the curve which has happened during the lockdown has only delayed the inevitable spread. It is not going to delay eventually how many people are going to get infected with the virus, right? Which means the risk is there. It's a live and present danger to the extent which is there. From an Ayurveda perspective, you may say the Ritu is changing and things may change, but we don't know whether recurrences will happen. Like the Ebola virus came and then came back. There are multiple occurrences, so we need to be aware of the fact. Quiet virus does not mean that it is a dead virus. It's there. The gestation period is 1 to 14 days. This is WHO data, right? Data keeps changing, but currently the understanding is 1 to 14 days, which means the risk of contracting the virus from an asymptomatic person is very, very real. Similarly, very interesting information, right? I'm trying to make sense of these bits of data, but I think it's very important for us to understand what we are contending with. Of the people who are infected, right, who are diagnosed as COVID positive, what is an estimate? The estimate is that for every one person who is infected, there will be asymptomatic infected walking around. Maybe 65 times the number who have been identified as being infected. That means a large number of people are walking around who are currently infected but who are asymptomatic, 1 to 65. Similarly, of the people who have been picked up as COVID positive, you're finding that 80% of them are asymptomatic. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So one question that was asked in the previous session, but then I think you will be the right person to give a little more clarity on that, was that what is the current status of insurance coverage during an epidemic in general and Ayurveda sector?
I think insurance has really come a long way. Recently, I mean, there were 2 or 3 phases. In 2016 December, 2015 December, 2016 beginning, there was a notification from the Insurance Regulatory Development Authority. Am I audible? I just want to confirm I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes.
I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So which said that NABH accredited hospitals would be, and apart from medical colleges, would be allowed to give cashless treatment. Subsequently, one more notification came out with some prices being fixed for allopathy hospitals. Most recently as January beginning of 2020, a new regulation has come that any 10-bed hospital with full-time doctors can get insurance coverage. So I just want to say it's completely open, but by and large, if you don't have NABH coverage, you're going to have a problem because people don't, the insurance company may restrict. But insurance is by and large open if you have documentation and quality standards available with you.
Do you think the standard of education in Ayurveda has to be improved to give similar importance to allopathy? Why Ayurveda is looked down upon, although we all know it is a great science? The question comes from Dr. Chandrasekhar Iyer.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, my view is that, it's in any system you will find that whether you go to allopathy, you go to engineering, wherever it is there, barring a few institutes, there is always scope to improve. So my view is that I think our self-belief, there's such good people today in Ayurveda, particularly the last 2 generations, if you look who have passed out in the last 10 years, 15 years, such very good minds have come into Ayurveda. But that self-belief that you can work with pure Ayurveda, uncompromising Ayurveda, and do a great job, make a living, earn a good livelihood to support the family, that confidence is lacking. And I think while there is so much to do, this is an example. There is a COVID-19 crisis happening. What are we doing as a young, the youngsters of Ayurveda, this is a very good conference, but how do we engage with the community? So I think while we can talk about improvements in education, I think a lot more students themselves should engage with the system, challenge the system. A lot of times I see very obedient, very quiet people who are not challenging everybody, including me, right? So I think we should all be having much more energy in the Ayurveda sector. Yeah.
So this goes with what Dr. Geeta Krishnan was also telling. He was asking everybody to be like ready to go challenge, and that readiness should come to you. That
I agree
what
with
he was also stating.
So
we have one question from Dr. Nimin Sridhar. I would like to read that. He says it's a great talk, Rajiv ji. So that goes to you. Earlier, you had talked about the need of us to write in-depth articles based on research studies. Do you know of any resources or models that these writers can look into and get groomed on this kind of writing?
See, Dr. Nimin, congratulations on a fine job that you're doing in spreading, good information on Ayurveda through your ayurvedacommunity.org. The larger point I would say is that there are many workshops being done, and I think some of these have been done at AVP also by Dr. Kishore Deshmukh and Kishore Deshmukh, right? So Kishore Patwardhan from BHU. So on how to write papers. But I think one of the key things to be done, if I may say, is if all the young doctors, right, and maybe the foundation here can take, AVP Research Foundation can take the lead, that every patient seen in OP clinic, there is a minimum, the Athura Patrika is standardized to a minimum. What outcome parameters are measured are again standardized to a minimum. Very soon, you will find every discharge summary, every patient met, there will be some good data coming. We are not able to work together and come up with standardized documentation. If people are really interested, this is very much possible. The first step is to get those case reports out, case reports to case series, and then, so on, the hierarchy of evidence, observational studies, and so on. But it is very much possible. One very positive thing which I want to convey to everybody here. See, so far we have heard about the double-blind randomized clinical trials. I think one change that is happening with the COVID-19 crisis is the ability to come up with what we would call broadly a black box study, which means that I have a standardized set of medicines being given, but those standardized set of medicines, I don't need to restrict to one tablet or a placebo and stuff like that. I can give a bunch of classical polyherbal Ayurveda medicines as Guliga, as Kashaya, Lehya, Grita, whatever I want to do, I give that, and then I can compare it with a study group. So I think that's going to be opening up from a research methodology angle a lot of flexibility. So Dr. Nimin, I would urge that you would work with all the people that you're in touch with, young, middle-aged, old, etc., to say, how do we standardize the capturing of data at the clinic, at the hospital, to the bare minimum level so that data is accumulated? This is what I would say, right? From that it will come, and would be happy to engage with you separately.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. You can just log me off then. Namaste to all of you. Namaste.